Welcome again. I'm Zygmunt from RiverCruiseCenter.com. Part 1 covered the Danube section from Budapest to Prague extension. Now Richard from Amar Waterways and I will show you this exciting river cruise in the other direction.
Thank you so much, Zygmunt, for that introduction. I appreciate it. And thank you once again, everybody, for taking a moment to join us.
Yes, Richard. And in Budapest, Amar boat is positioned so close to such must-see sites as the Parliament building that we see here, the Chain Bridge, and the Fisherman's Bastion. All the sites that you should actually really make sure you see.
So then we make our way down actually into, we're actually going to dock at a town called Mohacs. And from there, again, you can spend some time there. We don't have any excursions there really. We've got the Pech excursion, there's wine tasting, there's bike riding along the Danube as well. But this is a great little town. It's kind of a mini version of Budapest that not many people know about. And it's, again, under Roman rule at one time, under the Ottomans, and just a lot of different, cultures and history that can be traced back there. One thing that it's known for is actually creating these beautiful ceramic tiles. So the tiles, if you've ever seen pictures of St. Stephen's Cathedral in Vienna or St. Stephen's Cathedral in Budapest, those tiles are actually made from this town right here, the town of Pech. So just one interesting little fact too. But one thing that we offer is a trip up to the Petrovarden forest. And then we also do kind of an evening tour. We get to hike up there, get some wonderful views of the city in the evening. And then we actually get to visit some of these underground tunnels that are part of that particular fortress too. So a really cool highlight there. And actually, I take that back. I was getting a little confused with something right there too. I'll come back to that in a minute. But St. Stephen's Cathedral, if you can end it where I said right that, my apologies. I was getting ahead of myself. This is actually what I want to talk about too, the Petrovarden in the forest, the evening walk right there. But Novosad, Serbia is going to be one of the next opportunities. We actually pull into the town of Vukovar, and there we do offer a city tour and Elch Castle. There's also another option to the town of Ilok, or Croatian wine tasting is another option. And then Novosad, which is this picture that we see right here, the Athens of Serbia walking tour. There's a national park and hike tour, the Novosad bike tour, or that fortress evening walk that I was talking about. And that's actually where you get to hike up to this fortress, take in some amazing views of the town right there. Because it's the evening, you get to take in a site that looks pretty similar to this near sunset. This fortress actually has some wonderful underground tunnels that are still intact, and we get to experience and walk through those also. Zygmunt, I'm not sure if you might have anything to add on this on the lower Danube. I think you said you hadn't been to this part, though, is that correct?
No, I haven't been down on the river in the lower Danube. I flew down to give some speeches, but not on the river. So
okay.
This is all yours.
Good. Okay. We've had some really good input, so thank you for that. Then our next stop, going further down, we're going to stop in the town of Belgrade. So this will now be the fourth capital that we talked about along the Danube, and it's kind of a crossroads of different civilizations, just because so many different empires that it's been under. It's actually been destroyed more than 100 times over, just over the centuries from different wars, 3 times in the last century alone. And it's also kind of locally known as that phoenix. It just kind of keeps rising and rebuilding itself. But a lot of beautiful things to see right here also. These ships that we see along here in the water, most of these are actually converted into restaurants. So this is where you can go and do some dining in the evening. A lot of great things that you can do to just kind of walk around town. The old Parliament building. There's a city tour that we offer here as well. And it's nice too, because earlier we made that stop in Croatia. I believe the town was Mohac. That's actually in Croatia. So we're getting different commentary from the cruise managers, where they're giving different lectures on things. We'll hear that, some different stories from the Croatian side during the Yugoslavian war. But this is an opportunity now that we're in Belgrade to hear some kind of that different perspective about the Yugoslavian war too. So some really enriching things that we'll learn along the way. Then we'll make our way down to Iron Gates, but this is actually about a 24-hour sailing down the Danube Gorge. So once we leave Belgrade and we head out that evening, it's about 24 hours before we make our way up to the Iron Gate. So some wonderful scenic cruising, just taking in those vineyards along the way, those small towns and villages along the way. And again, lots of commentary and some wonderful lectures from our cruise managers on board the ship. This actually always reminds me when I see this picture of something that you'd probably see out of Lord of the Rings, but this is actually the king. I'm trying to remember his name here. It's going to come to me in just a moment. But while this carving may look really old, it's actually not that old. It was actually built between 1994 and 2004, so quite new, actually. It took about 10 years to construct. And it was actually King Decebalus, who's actually the last king of the Dacian Empire at that time before the Romans conquered them. So this is actually just a tribute to the some of Romanian's early roots and going back to the 2nd century. So this is a really nice highlight that we get to travel through right here in this beautiful gorge. It's actually located between the Carpathian and the Balkan Mountains, so some nice geography that we get to pass through here. And then as we continue to go on, our next stop will actually be the town of Vidin. And in Vidin itself, we actually have a nice walking tour. But another option would be to go over to Belogradic excursion, and being able to go up to the Belogradic fortress that we see right here. This, of course, is in Bulgaria. One thing that's kind of nice about this particular one too, you can hike all the way up to top. You can just kind of sit down below and just take in this beautiful natural rock formation. One thing that's kind of funny that we get here a lot from different guests to just kind of go and experience this is that they talk about all the different things that they see in the different formations of the rocks, from seeing something that looked like a lion or like a bird or things like that. So just really provokes some wonderful conversation, and it's just a really nice scenic stop along the way as well. But again, we have those other tours to choose from. There's this pastry and yogurt tasting tour, which again is quite unique. And then of course we have that bike tour in every town. And then we continue to make our way down. The next stop will be Rusy. And then from there, of course, you'll have some different options. So we don't have much going on in Rusy. You can, of course, spend some time there, explore on your own. But those folks that want to join some of the different excursions, Veliko Trnava would be one that I would definitely recommend. This is this wonderful old medieval capital. It used to be the medieval capital of Bulgaria. And you can't even build any new buildings in this area. So everything has been extremely well preserved. Again, you can't build anything that's new here. One of the nice tours that we do for our guests is to actually take them to experience some of the workshops, to see what some of the silver makers do and the copper makers, some wood carving, and just different local Bulgarian and crafts. You'll also get some free time to take in some of the local food. Again, just the cuisine that the local residents are taking in. So again, just quite an immersive experience. And then when we leave there, we've actually in a town called Giurgiu, and from Giurgiu, that would be where guests would end. And if they're leaving the cruise at that point, they would make their way back to the airport and fly home. But if you want to add a couple of different extensions, we do have an extension that goes into Bucharest, Romania. Also, this happens to be their Parliament building that we're looking at right here. We offer a city tour here. There's an old town tour. It's kind of known as the Little Paris to the local Bucharest residents. And this was actually designed, believe it or not, after one of the Parliament buildings in North Korea. And it's actually one of the largest Parliament buildings in Bucharest, or actually throughout Europe. And then another option would be Brasov, Romania. So if you don't recognize this castle right here, this is actually in Transylvania. And we make a stop here at this and just kind of get to hear some of the legend and the lore of Dracula, of course, or Vlad the Impaler. And we actually also, in addition to this, we make a stop at his hometown, which is a town called Sighisoara. So in addition to actually visiting the castle, we actually get to make a stop at the town that Vlad was actually born to. So there's great things that you can look to add on as an extension. And in addition to this, I don't have a slide of it. If you want to go down to Turkey, we have another post extension going down into Turkey. So again, on this particular tour, just looking at the gems of Southeastern Europe, aside from the tour, if you add on this pre and post, you can visit a total of 7 different countries on this particular trip. So
Richard,
it's a really wonderful one that we put together. Yes, sir.
Richard, in Brasov, you get to learn how to say, "I will take a bite out of your neck."
What does that mean exactly?
I will take a bite out of your neck. That's what it means.
Okay. The accent was really strong. I kind of didn't catch that. That's funny. Eastern European traditions then. So, just to kind of sum up some of the things that I said already, it's just a different world on this stretch, many different cultures, languages, the religions that I mentioned, full of traditions, even just some of the dress that we see from some of the different events that we get to go to and stuff also. So consider looking that Grand Danube River experience or doing some of the ones back to back that we talked about also. And then the last part that I want to mention, and you'll forgive me if I move just a little bit faster through this part, but I want to touch upon the Alma Magna. We actually have an itinerary that's called the Magna on the Danube. This one would experience some of the things that we just covered today. But the Alma Magna itself is this vessel that we see down here below. And I'm not sure if you can notice that the ship is a bit larger than some of the other pictures that we've seen. It's almost about twice the width as the other river cruise ships. It's the largest river cruise ship in the industry to date. It was actually just built last year in 2019. And what makes this one so special is not just the fact that it's so much larger, but when this ship was built, the idea was really to offer more personal space, more public space, larger staterooms, more amenities on board. So, I mean, just looking down, you can see how large and expansive that sun deck is right there. We have a pool on board as well. Every one of our vessels has 2 restaurants on board. We have our main dining room. Then we have something called the Chef's Table Restaurant. The Chef's Table Restaurant, I'll just mention briefly, it's a great experience where it's a 6-course meal. It's an alternative dining restaurant, so you need to make reservations once you get on board, but there's no extra charge for it. But with those 6 courses, you'll have different options there. So it's not just a set 6-course meal. There's 3 to 4 different wine pairings with it. It's located at the back of the ship. So if you're sailing down the river in the evening, the right time of year, you get this amazing sunset. You see this chef and his team preparing everything, plating the food behind this glass window cooking station there too. And it's just one of the best experiences on board, really. The average vessel I mentioned before holds about 150 to 160. That's on average. Maximum occupancy on a river ship, there's some that go up to like 170, 180. Viking River Cruise on their long ships, they have a maximum capacity of up to 193 guests. This ship, by comparison, holds up to 196 at full occupancy. So in comparison to Viking's River Cruise ship, which is half the size, this has just 3 more guests on board too. So just wanted to point that out to really kind of speak to the room on board. This happens to be a look at our Chef's Table Restaurant here. So you can just see really nice intimate dining, wonderful decor. I mentioned that you have to make reservations to experience it, but if you want to experience it again, you can certainly do that. In comparison to the main dining room operates as more as a progressive dining experience, meaning when you are in Budapest, you're going to find goulash on the menu. When you're in Vienna, you'll find Wiener Schnitzel on the menu, but you'll still have those staple items to go to. So if you just want steak, or if you're just feeling like a chef salad that evening, we'll have that on board for you as well. And here's a look at one of the other restaurants, the Alfresco restaurant. I love this picture just because I love the decor and kind of how it really blends in with the river here. But aside from that, you see this glass ceiling. That glass ceiling will actually retract. Those front windows, the top part of those front windows will actually lower as we're traveling. So you get this wonderful offshore riverbank breeze, and just a great experience. We have an onboard cinema room here too. There's no other river cruise ship that offers something like this. From first run movies to, maybe if you're traveling with your family and the teens or some of the younger kids want to do some gaming, we can set that up for them as well. On either side of the cinema room where you can walk in, there's also a library there. And then just behind to the right here where you see the seating, this is actually where the Alfresco restaurant would be that we just had a look at as well. The other part that I would share is that if you've done ocean cruising and you love that experience, and maybe you've been a little apprehensive or just been thinking about river cruising, Alma Magna, I think, would be the best transition for you, because you're going to be used to the more spacious rooms and just more space overall on board the ship. This is a look at one of our standard suites on board, 355 square feet. You'll find about the same square footage on all of our other ships for the suites. But in addition to that, we also have a grand suite, which goes up to 424 feet, 424 square feet. And then we also have our owner suite, which is up to 710 square feet too. So again, if you've done that ocean cruising, you're used to those larger staterooms, this at least gives you that opportunity on board Alma Magna. And I mentioned that the crew is a really big part of that. Here's a look at some of our crew on board one of our vessels. So this goes from the hotel manager to the folks in the restaurant, to the concierge team, to all those people that are behind the scenes that you don't even see, that are making sure that your excursion is going to go off without a hitch. But this next slide that's coming up right here, this shows some of our cruise managers. I have to say, as special as everybody is on board, our cruise managers really are the VIP guest when you're on board, a VIP host rather, when you're on board. I mean, they are extremely knowledgeable. They're there to make tips, recommendations, suggestions. And what's really nice that when you book a pre or post package with Alma Waterways, our cruise managers will actually join you before the trip and after the trip. You're going to have an Alma Waterways representative meet you at the airport. They're going to take you to the hotel. You'll meet our cruise manager there. They're going to lead you on some different excursions. But once again, they're going to be there just to make sure that you feel comfortable and answer any questions that you may have. And then when you get on board, you've already built that rapport with them. And then the same thing on the end. If you're staying a little bit longer, a few days longer, they're going to join you for that as well. And then after that, when they say goodbye to you, what we'll do is send them off to another river cruise to do maybe a different itinerary. It could be a different ship with a whole new crew making different stops. So I share this just really to emphasize that they're incredibly knowledgeable because they get moved around so much and get to experience so many different things, and really a special part of what Alma Waterways. Zygmunt, I'm not sure if you may want to add anything more at this time. I'm looking to see if we have any questions. Let's see.
I don't see any questions, but the bicycle tours are fantastic. Alma Waterways has bicycles on its ships, so you can just grab a bicycle and go riding around on a bicycle tour, which is just absolutely a great experience. And what I really enjoyed, I've been I think on about 56, 57 cruises. Out of that, 50 were on big ships and 6 or 7 on river cruises. And I am really hooked on river cruises because every single day you're in port, unlike the big ship where you're sailing for 3 days in port, maybe 3 days. And every day the ship lands right usually in the middle of the town. And you got to be very careful because all the cabins face outwards. So if you're lying in bed and you don't have covers on and you're naked, all the villagers will be coming and looking at you as the ship lands. So you got to make sure.
Caution, right? So hopefully this has really given you a nice overview of what there is to experience on the Danube. Please check with Zygmunt if you're interested in looking at what some of the different options are. I will just mention, let's just kind of address the obvious. We know that at this current time, Europe is not allowing Americans to travel there. We're remaining optimistic and hopeful that we will be able to get back as soon as we can. We're completely ready. Our crew is ready. In fact, I can share that we do have a ship, the Alma Christina, that's actually started sailing in Europe. And presently it's operating with German guests exclusively on board, but we are back in the waters technically, and not technically, we are back in the waters. It's not for American guests right now. And we're the only American river cruise line presently to be sailing, but there are some European river cruise lines that have been sailing since the first part of June. And, in terms of the question, like, what's it going to look like when you're back on the waters? What's the experience going to be on board? I've already seen some pictures that have been shared where, in the lounge area, for example, there's some different plexiglass that's been placed in different areas to allow more freedom so people don't have to wear the mask. We do ask that when they're in the public areas that they do have a mask on, but when they're sitting at certain areas, just like when some of the restaurants were opened up, you walk in, you have your mask on, you sit down, you can take your mask off. It'll be that same type of experience. For our walking tours, again, you're off the ship. You don't have to be close to anybody. So all those things we're taking into account and making sure that we're managing so that our guests can have a wonderful and safe experience. The other part that I would mention just briefly is that we have something called Trip Waiver Plus, and this would be so you could protect the full investment of your travel. So if it's there's a pretty small nominal fee to that, but you can cancel for any reason up to 24 hours prior to departure. As you get closer to departure, and if you were to cancel, let's say for an uncovered reason, that's where this would kick in. And then rather than you losing, say, maybe 35% of your travel investment, if you cancel between somewhere like 60 to 90 days, rather than losing that completely, we would actually hold on to that as a cruise credit for you, so that when you're ready to book, you have that credit on file for us. So it's basically protected. And the last part that I'll share is that we know that some people have very valid concerns about what's the legitimate, how legitimate is this company? How stable is this company? Are they going to be around next year? We are actually completely debt-free. We are certainly one of the only, travel suppliers and river cruise companies out there that's completely debt-free. We own all of our vessels. We're not, charting them from anybody else. So not only do we own them, but we're completely debt-free. And this includes 2 new ships, the Alma Siena and Alma Lucia, that are set to arrive next year. They're paid in full. In addition to that, we've actually taken on some partnerships with some financial investors, like Curtis Sutaris, the Rothschild Group, Peugeot family, among some others. So we are not going anywhere. We have not had to lay off any of our team members or reduce salaries for anybody. So we're actually operating at full capacity. So that I'm sharing just to make you feel comfortable that you can feel safe by booking your trip with us.
I have to confirm that, because I'm aware and I know many of the different cruise lines, and I've known Gary Murphy and his father Jimmy since the beginning, and the company is the most stable river company right now in the world, I would say.
Yeah, thank you for testing that. Thank you for testing. I mean, I'm just proud and humbled to be working for such a wonderful organization. The leaders are just amazing. But I think the last part that I want to kind of share here too, and then again, any final questions? Otherwise, I think we can wrap it up soon. This is something that we put together early on, and this is to honor this frontline heroes, the nurses, doctors that are out there doing their best to keep us all safe and have COVID back to hell. There are a few other professions that have been identified as well, but if you are a doctor or nurse, or you think you might be in a profession that would qualify, let us know, because this is something where we're giving a complimentary cruise to one guest, and then only their traveling companion would have to pay. So if there's any interest in here, please check in with Zygmunt. He can get you some of the details, and we can get your application submitted so we can get back to you and see if we can confirm something for you.
Thank you, Richard, for the presentation. Great presentation. If you have any questions, please call me. I'll email everyone that is attending, and I'll have my cell phone number on there. And please contact me when you need information about river cruising.
Wonderful. Zygmunt, thank you once again so much for this. Thank you, everybody, for joining, and be safe and have a great evening, everybody. Thank you so much.
Thank you.